right, Footballers Anonymous, we're coming off of Week 7 going into Week 8. I'm Trey Seitz.
And I'm Rob Mattern.
And we're here this week for your video update.
Week 7 recap.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Week 7 recap. Start off with a game that I don't want to talk about, and I just want to mention it quickly and move it along. Victor's Wildcats and Steelers Wheel. I think I said to you the other day, Trey, that I could have probably played just about anybody else on my bench and won that game, but I just had the exact worst case scenario, pretty much other than Peyton Manning and Marshawn Lynch, to lose that game, and ended up losing by 2. So good job, Victor's Wildcats. I got to give you that one. You beat me, but I think you're still going down the end. So
that final score was 78-76. Calvin Johnson was Victor's Wildcats star player with 27 points. Peyton Manning again for Steelers Wheel with 25 points. Both of their worst players, 2 points. Deshaun Jackson and Josh Gordon.
Yep.
Let them down badly. All right, the next matchup we're going to talk about is Flea Flickers versus Supermom 2003. 87-84 was the ending score, with Matthew Stafford scoring 26 points and Matt Ryan scoring 22 points. Kristen went into Monday night with the only player out of the two with Blair Walsh, who is injured. And he wasn't going to be doing any kickoffs, but he was going to still do the field goals, and he walked away with 0 points. If I was in Kristen's position, I would have benched him if I could have and kept the solid 0 points, because I would have been worried that he got negative points for me.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, because she had the game in hand. But, Kristen made a great move we're going to be talking about later with the Panthers defense, and came out with a win, won by 3 points.
Yeah, it was a good matchup there again. That's 2 in a row good matches that she's had.
Yeah, I think she actually beat you in the standings here now, I think, if that's right.
That's correct. We'll be talking about that later.
Yeah. All right, guys, the next game we're going to talk about is J Knights and Three Sharks in the Water. Three Sharks pulled out another victory, and pretty handedly too, 127-80. And Jamel, J Knights, his top scorer was Vincent Jackson with 25 points. He had a big game. And Three Sharks, another big game from Chicago Bear with 28 points, and Matt Forte.
That's more than a quarter of J Knight's total score.
Yes.
Three Sharks is pretty devastating this year, and J Knight's team falling apart early in the season and still trying to recoup. It's just sad to see the person you're playing have one player that's over 1/4 of your total score.
Three Sharks had a lot of other players show up. Pretty much everybody on his team show up as well. J Knights could have had Fred Jackson in and got a few more, but there's nothing he could have really done with his roster to even touch him this week.
Brandon Marshall was Three Sharks' lowest scoring player on his active roster, and he came in with 7 points. So, that's not even bad at all. Now, J Knights had Bilal Powell, and I'm not too sure why nobody has Ivory, but people have him. But we'll see what happens this week with the waiver wire, see if anyone picks him up or if it continues to go this way. But pick up Chris Ivory. That'd be a good pickup for you. This is the last recap from last week. It is Master Disaster versus Lucci's Winners, the commissioner game. I lost 104-77. RG3 had a good game for me, scoring 25 points. He was my high scorer. Aaron Rodgers, 23 points. Doug Martin is my worst player this week with a trade that we'll talk about later, but he's not the only one that got 4 points on my team, but he is the only one that got 4 points and could possibly be out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow. I don't know. What do you say? You make a big trade, And there's always that risk that could happen on either end, and unfortunately, it was your turn.
Yeah, so that's what happened. John got it this year. We'll see what happens next year or maybe at the end of the season in the playoffs.
PG standings.
All right, people, we're going to show you the standings as of right now after Week 7 going into Week 8.
All right, guys, based on those standings, if the season would end right now, the playoff seedings would be 3 Sharks in the Water with the first seed. Second seed would be Supermom 2003 has taken over Trey in the East there. Third seed would be Lucci's Winners with his win last week. Pushed me down to 4th place, Steelers Wheel. 5th place we have Flea Flickers. 6th place is Trey with Master Disaster. 7th is the champion, Victor's Wildcats. And 8th is J Knight, still winless.
Bullshit.
Waiver wire report.
All right, people, we're back with the waiver wire report. We're going to see what interesting things happened this week. All right, the Panthers' defense was picked up for Mike Williams, Tampa Bay wide receiver. Panthers' number 4 overall defense was available still on the waiver wire. I wasn't even looking for them.
I wasn't either. You told me that just before we started here, and I was completely shocked. They completely flew under the radar as far as I'm concerned.
You know, and Mike Williams, he's the number 2 wide receiver down there in Tampa Bay, but I don't think it was a big loss, and I don't think anyone's going to be running to pick up Mike Williams right now.
Nah, I don't think so either. He's had a pretty lackluster year, and I think he scored 3 last week against Atlanta. So when you consider 17 for the Panthers defense and 3 points for Mike Williams, it was a good move.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, next topic is Joseph Randle, the running back from the Dallas Cowboys, who was picked up when Chris Johnson was dropped by Victor's Wildcats. Overall, it didn't really hurt him in the game. He still won his game. But Chris Johnson is currently the 13th ranked running back in the league as far as fantasy points are. And he scored 16 last week against San Francisco. Joseph Randle scored 8 versus the Eagles. So, bad move, Victor.
Yeah, I think Joseph Randle is going to have a good game coming up here. If he can, as long as DeMarco Murray is gone, I don't know how long he's going to be somebody to keep on your roster, but we'll see what happens. Chris Johnson was a big loss, though. He did a trade for him. All right, and our last one to talk about is Alex Smith dropped for Nick Foles, and then I got my guy, Alex Smith, and I dropped the Browns defense, the 9th overall defense out there, and I think they're just going to improve from this point on, but I had to let him go so I could get Alex Smith.
I don't know quite how I feel about Alex Smith. He's a good quarterback, and he's going to win games on the field consistently, but I don't know if he's going to win fantasy games for you consistently. He's had a breakout year here, scoring 20 or more points in the first 4 games or so, and then kind of dropped off, had 2 games under 10 points, and then had 15 last week, which is a good game. But compared to Nick Foles' 5, that was a bad move.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he was thinking, but I have Alex Smith there, more of a security blanket than anything, but we'll see how long I keep 3 quarterbacks on my roster. Usually after a bye week, I don't like to keep any more than 1 on my entire team.
All right, guys, moving on to week 8. We have the mentionable players for this upcoming week.
All right, the first mentionable we're talking about is Cam Newton. Cam Newton, he has 5 interceptions so far this year, 1 fumble, but he's rushing less than I thought he would be. He's averaging 23.5 rushing yards a game and 2 rushing TDs so far on the season. I don't know if this is going to be his best season that he's had since he came in the league, but there's only been 3 seasons counting this year, so I think it'll be near the top.
He's the 12th ranked quarterback right now in fantasy points. Had a huge year his first year in the league. Had a bad year last year, and I think he's finding his groove of where he fits in the NFL now. Going up against Tampa Bay this week, they're good against the run, but things are kind of falling apart down there right now. I don't think Darrelle Revis is quite the player he was before his knee issue. What are your thoughts on Cam Newton this week?
I think he does good this week.
I think he does too. I think he takes advantage of that Tampa Bay defense. Okay, guys, the next mentionable is Larry Fitzgerald. Currently ranked 17th in wide receiver fantasy points. Faces a weak Atlanta defense this week, who's 29th against wide receivers this year. Larry Fitzgerald has 3 really good games over 10 points, over 12 points actually, but the other 4 are under 6. He's had some injury issues with his hamstring this year, but I think that Larry Fitzgerald has have a really good week this week, just because Atlanta's so poor.
You know, for some reason it seems that all the top wide receivers this year are playing through injuries, and I don't necessarily agree with it. You know, Roddy White's doing it,
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Johnson's doing it. I just think with the issues that he's going for right now, I think we're going to continue to see the numbers that we've seen so far, and so far this year he's averaging 8.7 points a game. Now, Atlanta's not necessarily the best defense, but I don't know about this week. What are your thoughts?
I say good.
I think bad this week. All right, the next mentionable we're going to be talking about is Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson is 8th among wide receivers right now with 81 total points. You know, his lowest games this year is 9 points and 8 points. It really goes against everything that I say with Green Bay and New Orleans and other similar teams where they pass the ball around way too much. He's really doing it this year. He's doing a lot better than I thought he would. Now, with James Jones and Randall Cobb both out, I don't know if I see more double coverage or more targets coming his way.
Yeah, that's a tough one. They're playing Minnesota this week. We're going to talk about Eddie Lacy here in a minute too. But I just think this game, I think Green Bay is going to go up early, and I think they're just going to run the ball and run the clock out. So what are your thoughts on Jordy Nelson for this week?
This week I'm going with double coverage. Bad.
Yes, I agree. Okay, guys, the next one is Heath Miller, tight end from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He missed the first few weeks this year with an injury. His first game back, he had 3 points. Since then, he's had 7, 8, and 5. Against the Raiders this week, I think that he's going to have his breakout game. Maybe a touchdown or 2 and score in double digits.
I'm not going to doubt a touchdown, but I think right now their problem is the Wildcat. You know, they're not really sure if they're sticking with the Wildcat or if they're getting away with it and are getting away from it. And I think until they figure out the Wildcat, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Heath Miller. What are your thoughts?
I think he's going to have a breakout week.
I think it's not. I don't think we're going to see double digits all year. All right, Adrian Peterson is the next mentionable. Currently, Adrian Peterson is 7th running back overall with 88 points. Weeks 6 and 7 were his low weeks, and with only 10 attempts and 13 attempts. Prior to that, he was over 20 attempts every game. I don't know what's going on over there. I know their quarterback situation is killing them. They haven't really been doing much of passing to him at all this season. They have been, but not as much as they did previously. I know he's dealing with some personal issues right now, and I feel bad for the guy about it, but I think his numbers will climb. I just don't know how soon.
Yeah, Minnesota's a really tough situation to figure out right now. They don't, like you said, they don't know what to do with their quarterback. I don't think Josh Freeman, after watching that game on Monday night, I don't know how you can start him again. Not that he's a bad quarterback, but that's just a position you have to know that team and that offense. They looked like they had 6 different plays to choose from. And if that's the case, I don't care if you have Adrian Peterson in your backfield. It's just not going to work. So they're stuck in that weird spot right now where they can't run the ball, they can't pass the ball, and they can't figure out which one to do first to open up the other. What are your thoughts on AP for this week?
AP.
Bad. Are you going to sit him?
I don't know what I'm doing yet.
I don't know. That's a tough one. All right, guys. Next one is Eddie Lacy. We talked about him a little bit earlier when we talked about Jordy Nelson. They're playing Minnesota, who's currently 31st against fantasy running backs. The games this year where Eddie Lacy was not hurt, he's had 11, 9, 12, and 16 points just last week here at Cleveland. So he's been extremely consistent and, like I said, playing the 31st ranked defense against the run.
I think as long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be a good player. He's in a good system. Green Bay has been without a good running back for a long time, and hopefully he'll be the filler they've been looking for. What are your thoughts for this week?
I think extremely good for Eddie Lacy.
I'm also saying good. All right, people, the next subject we're going to talk about for the mentionables is going to be Hakeem Nicks, who is ranked 37th overall in wide receivers. This past week he surpassed Victor Cruz in targets for the first game of the season. A few years ago he was the number 1 wide receiver in New York. I don't know if his health is going to affect him ever getting back there or not, but right now there's talks of a possible trade happening with him.
Yeah, he's a tough one to figure out. Like you said, he seemed like to be a great player, up and coming, and it's just kind of fallen off. Injured his finger on Monday night, had a few bad drops. He's playing Philadelphia with this week, who has a bad defense. But what are your thoughts on Hakeem Nicks?
I think he's going to do good. Low double digits.
I say bad finger, bad hands, bad game. Okay, last subject in mentionables is Pierre Garçon. He's currently ranked 23rd out of wide receivers. He's playing Denver this week, who's 30th overall against wide receivers. I think those numbers are probably skewed a little bit because most other teams are passing a lot to try and catch up with Peyton and their offense. Yeah. But Denver's defense has Champ Bailey out again, has re-injured his foot last week. What do you think?
I think this week against Denver really affects his numbers, but I think the main thing that's hurting this guy is he's the number 1 wide receiver there, so all the double coverage is going to him. And RG3, he's just – I don't know about him this year. He's getting some good numbers, but his passing game isn't there, and I think he's too worried about not being able to scramble. So your thoughts for this week against Denver?
I think he's going to do well just because of the amount of the balls that are going to be thrown.
I'm going to say bad.
Mm-hmm.
Bold predictions.
All right, people, we're going to hit up bold predictions for Week 8. Right now, I am 1-0, and Rob is 0-1.
Yeah, I don't know if I can give you a full point on that because if I remember right, your bold prediction was Peyton Manning was going to do bad and the Colts were going to lose. I'm sorry. You said that Peyton Manning was going to do bad and that Denver was going to lose. So I'll give you picking the game, Indianapolis over Denver, but Peyton Manning did pretty well.
Peyton Manning had his third worst game of the season, and the Colts lost, which I predicted.
The Colts won.
I mean, 25 points. All right, that's not bad, but that's his third worst game of the season.
Yeah, this is the hardest game to talk about because we both keep saying that the Colts have lost, but the Colts actually won because Peyton Manning played for the Colts, but now he plays for the Broncos. So, anyway,
all right.
Colts beat the Broncos. I'll give it to you. You get a point. Okay, my bold prediction for this week has to do with the Dolphins and the Patriots game. I think the Dolphins are going to beat the Patriots, and I think that Mike Wallace is going to finally have his breakout game this year. I think he's going to score two or three touchdowns, and the Dolphins are going to beat the Patriots 34-24.
All right, my bold prediction for this week is the Giants get their first divisional win of the season, and Michael Vick gets injured for the rest of the season.
You think Michael Vick's out for the rest of the year?
The Giants will do it. I'm not sure if it's going to be Tuck or Pierre-Paul.
Week 8 preview.
Okay, guys, moving into the Week 8 Footballers Anonymous preview here. First game is Flea Flickers against Steelers Wheel. This is for that last playoff spot at the moment. Flea Flickers is 3-4. Steelers Wheel 4-3.
All right, the next matchup is Lucci's Winners against Three Sharks in the Water. Maybe Lucci's Winner can win against Three Sharks and knock him off his high horse.
Okay, next game is Supermom versus J Knights. It's an interesting matchup. Supermom has been on a little bit of a winning streak, and J Knights still looking for that first win.
All right, and the last game of the week is Victor's Wildcats, the league champion, against myself, Master Disaster. We met in week 1. The final score was 116-113. We'll see what happens this time. I think the league champion is going down, and I hopefully will restart my winning streak.
Okay, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Good luck with your Week 8 games, and we'll see you back here for Week 9.
We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. For some reason it seems that all the top wide receivers this year are playing through injuries, and I don't necessarily agree with it. Roddy. I just think with the issues that he's going. All right, people, we're back with the mentionables. I don't know what else to say. Let's just do the short. Should I do that again and leave a pause?
Yeah, hang on 1 second. Krista needs the baby lotion.
He doesn't want to be in the video? We're not recording. You can go now.
We are. Alright. Where's the trash can? Somebody stole my trash can.
Just throw it at Krista.
Yeah. Well, she's not in here anymore.
Yeah.
The games which he wasn't hurt, Eddie Lacy wasn't hurt. I'm going to start that again.